What was the overall pattern? Jigging a crawl, and just kind of break it down for me.
Yeah, I was throwing a.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Bucks Island crew. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. We've been doing this a while, moving on through the Elite Series of tournaments. And Dan, you got to spend a little time in Texas. So let's jump straight into that. Tell me, they were only catching like little small fish down there, right?
Yeah, right. 4 Century Club belts earned in this tournament. Lake Fork, Texas, their Quitman was the hometown of it, Quitman, Texas, and just outside of that, Lake Fork's one of the famed Texas fisheries. Timber everywhere. The lake was down 6 feet, so it kind of pulls fish to other places, and largely you're looking at post spawn type conditions. So the guys were fishing offshore. There were good crankbait bites, deep crankbait bites, in that 6XD, Strike King 6XD, the Little John DD type stuff, some other baits by 6 Cents that were a part of the winning bag, but then also jigs and big worms were key. I even heard of flutter spoon fish being caught, but I'm talking big flutter spoons, 6, 7, 8-inch long flutter spoons. But Lee Livesay, Longview, Texas, won his second Lake Fork, Bassmaster event, his Elite Series event there in consecutive years. And he was 112, 113 pounds, something like that. Brandon Polinick was a 100-pounder. Shane LaHue was a 100-pounder. And so was Gerald Swindle. It was kind of funny, too. Swindle, we talked to him after the tournament. He was stuck on 99 pounds, 15 ounces for like 3 hours on Sunday's final day. And you're looking at the phone going, oh man, come on, G, 99.15, you got to just call 1 ounce, and the funny thing is it's because it's the format that they used in the old TTBCs, which Major League Fishing has adopted with their catch, weigh, and release because of the Lake Fork slot limit. You can't keep fish that are between 16 and 24 inches there. You can keep unders and you can keep overs. Bass allows the guys to bring in 1 over, and I think there were 7 or 8 overs that were weighed in during the whole tournament.
Wow.
4 days. I think there was 4 on day 1. There might have been 1 on day 2, maybe, and then 2 or 3 total between the final 2 days. And I think the big fish was like 811 or something. Anyway, so Swindle, they don't bring them into weigh. So what the weight is what the weight is when you're on the water. And it's your best 5. It's not cumulative, but it's your best 5. And Swindle went by a dock, 20 minutes left to fish, and threw his jig up next to there and swam it out and caught one that culled. But he said it was funny. He caught a 6-pounder earlier in the day, and he's like, yes, that'll put me in the 100-pound club. And his boat official sitting there going, and he goes, what's the matter with you? He goes, you're at 99.15. And Gerald's like, dang it. And anyway, it was humorous. Lee,
it's still got to be a little frustrating to break 100 and still find yourself in that 3rd or 4th place.
I don't know,
or is that
because
just the way they accept it on a lake like that?
Those are the toughest tournaments to win, because you go into a tournament and say, if I don't put 25 on the scales, I'm worthless. And so, I mean, to think about Polinick, he had a 30-pound bag, his first 30-pound bag ever. And he had a 27 and a 28 or something like that. So he was like a 29-pound average. Well, he weighs 19 on day 4. And he's the only one that really probably could have caught Lee, but he ends up with like 107 or something. And that was his first Century Club belt performance. Brandon's. He was at 98 pounds at Santee Cooper. I think the year he won. But so anyway, it's a tremendous fishery. It's not like they were getting a ton of bites. The only guy that I know spent a lot of time shallow was Mark Menendez, and he ended up doing them on a rage cutter worm, and then caught a few on a thunder cricket, bladed jig type thing. But he was a 25th, 26th place finish, and he just decided he wasn't going to get into the merry-go-round and fight the wind. He just went shallow, and if I catch 5 of them, I'm good. And he ended up getting a check. Our, most of our team did well. Matt did well. Well, I say half of our team. Matt and Scott Canterbury both cashed checks. John Cruz finished just out of the top 50. Wes didn't have a good tournament, but anyway, it's one of those things. Lake Fork is a hit or miss deal. It's a big fish fishery. If you're not on them, you're irrelevant. Well,
I'm sure Wes will recover just fine, learn a ton of lessons, and continue to grow in the sport. So you had a chance to sit down with the winner, huh?
Yeah, I did. Lee Livesay, we caught him backstage, and ended up being able to sit down and interview with him. A jig, big pocket craw, caught some on a crankbait, a couple other little things, but primarily it was Lee's deal. Bait fuel plays a big deal in it that he talks about, which is I'm actually a believer in that stuff at this point myself. But yeah, it was really cool to catch up, and there's some emotion. It's his second win at home, big amount of stress. He talks about a little bit in some of his interviews. I don't remember if we touched on it or not. It's been a couple days. But also just to do it at home, with all his friends and family there, it's pretty cool. So I love listening to what Lee has to say.
All right, well, let's jump in and roll that in.
All right, Lee, number 2 on Lake Fork, home lake, home state. It's got to feel really good to be in this position.
Oh, I can't even talk right now. I've already cried like 5 times. It's insane what this means to me and this community in the lake. It's Lake Fork. It's legendary. Getting that 4th win in 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is, I don't even know now. It's incredible for for the longevity of my career, and I can't thank all my sponsors enough, and just my friends and family and anybody that's watching. It's never easy with me. It's always a struggle, never pretty, and man, we pulled it out somehow, and I'm just ecstatic. I'm excited, and that's all I can say is thank you all so much.
You said you found kind of an area that you weren't expecting to find them in. You just kind of tried to stay out of things. Describe that area.
Yeah, I've never even looked there before in my life. It was a new spot. I never caught a fish off in my life. The first day of practice, I just went looking at stuff I never looked at before, and I found a little point in some timber about halfway back in a major creek. Call it 13 to 17 foot of water, and it won me $100 grand.
So today, did the cloud cover make a difference? Because it was sunny all week. Yes, it was windy, but it was sunny. Did that kind of make a difference in the morning?
I think that north wind hurt it more than the clouds, honestly. And, I was fishing shell in the morning that needed a south wind. And I think the north wind, the clouds obviously didn't move my deep fish, or not that group. And I don't know. I thought they were going to bite better for everybody, and it didn't. So it definitely messed some things up for sure.
What was the overall pattern? Jig and a crawl, and just kind of break it down for me.
Yeah, I was throwing a 6-inch 300 DD on those shell beds as crankbait, 12 and 14 pound sunline, fluoro, Halo HFX cranking rod, 7.6 medium heavy, cranking shell in the mornings, and then I'd transition out deeper, and I was catching on a 6-inch hybrid jig, 3/4 ounce green pumpkin with a green pumpkin net bait pocket crawl on it. Little bait fuel on it, and Halo HFX 7.6 medium heavy, just regular action rod with a 22 pound sunline sniper, and fishing that little point in that timber, and just working it slow with that jig and catching them. I caught a few fish on a hog farmer hair jig, stand up hair jig, and a think that's it as far as baits. Oh, I caught an 8.3 today, last cast, on a 6-cent splutter spoon. Literally my last cast, I caught an 8.3 today. And that was all I threw this week, pretty much.
Well, congratulations on another great tournament, and of course your daughter. That's a pretty cool deal.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, man. I'm so excited. This is awesome.
I'm going to ask my standard question. What's the takeaways for us from his insights and from this tournament to bring back home here in Northeast Alabama?
You know, the Coosa River largely is a shallow water fishery. Yes, Logan Martin and Lay Lake, and I should say Neely Henry is largely a shallow water fishery. Winning fish are going to be in places you may not think about, and you may have to try to find something a little bit different. Lee found a spot that he had never looked at in his life, and looked at it because he was there with a big tournament going on the first practice day on the Sunday before, and he didn't want to be seen on any of his good stuff, and he ends up finding a new spot. Look for differences and throw the kind of baits that'll get you a little bit bigger bite, whether it's a big plug or a big jig, something like that. You know, if you're fishing Weiss or Gunnersville or Logan Lay, someplace that you're going to go offshore, present something that'll draw a bigger bite, and I think that's what you're looking at.
Well, so I'm gonna ask the novice question as I listen to this this tournament, watching this, and then as I've listened to some of the fishing reports that we're getting, it kind of sounds like right now there's a lot of opportunity to catch fish on a lot of different things. Am I hearing that right? So if you're just a recreational guy getting out there trying to have some fun, a lot of different techniques to try.
There are. There will always be an element of fish that are shallow. This time of the year when the bluegill start spawning, they'll pull out just a little bit, but they'll be in the bays, and you'll find crater spots like a moon craters of bluegill beds. And there will be some bass outside of that. But largely what happens on bodies of water with good water quality is those fish will settle out there in deeper water. They're usually unmolested. There's not as many people that'll fish that stuff. So the fish will get out there and kind of sit. So you can catch those fish on big worms and jigs and crankbaits occasionally. But it's a matter of this time of the year to just go catch a fish. Yeah, you can go shallow and you can throw a shaky head. You can, throw a crankbait, something like that. It may not be winning fish, but you can do that. If you want to go after the big ones, you can kind of look offshore. Again, I'd say Neely Henry, probably not so much. I think a lot of those fish are, they're resident shallow most of the time. Gotcha. Even if they're offshore, they might be shallow on bars and edges of ledges and stuff like that. I just think that's Neely Henry. But the rest of the places, if you want to go hunt and peck and you can get out there with your graphs and look at your mapping and look at your sonar, you might be able to find something that's a little unique if you're looking for big bites.
All right. Well, guys, this is hopefully some helpful info, as always, trying to bring you something to help you catch a few fish or catch the winning fish. So thanks, Dan, for doing it. I know you're still on the road and running around. You're hanging out in Georgia right now, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody's just feeling really sorry for me. I'm at a plantation. Christine and I are camping still. We're about 20 miles away, but we're camping at this plantation. It's a Lose and Strike King media event. Private lake is where the main media stuff is going on. It's about 300 plus acres. There was a 9 caught yesterday. There were probably 300 fish caught between 6 boats. This morning, I got to go to the owner's private lake. Everybody gets to take a turn over there, but you get to fish for 2.5 hours. It's really the first time I picked up a rod. Most of the time I have a camera in my hands. I left the camera sitting on the deck so that when Andy Montgomery, the MLF pro, caught one, I could take pictures of him. But I caught 7, and the smallest was 4.5, but that was only one. The rest of them were over 5, and I caught one that was about 7.5 pounds. I'll put it to you this way. When I ended up setting the hook, after the second fish that I caught one on a topwater bait. But after the first worm fish that I caught, I ended up taking my hand, putting it under the rod here when I set the hook to be able to pull and get the fish moving, because the first one, by the time I got here, my hand was stopping and I was like, oh gosh, that's a good one. So it was fun. They come out of the water. You think every single one of them's a 10-pounder. Until they get up to the side of the boat, and then you realize it's only about 6.5, 7 pounds. So
only.
I know everybody's so upset for me
Yes.
to have to be sitting out here doing this and taking pictures of, Greg Hackney and Andy Montgomery and Todd Faircloth and Jeff Sprague and Shaw Grigsby. It's just Brett Chapman. It's so terrible.
It is. It is. Well, guys, have your own moment of silence for Dano and shed a tear. But we're going to wrap this one up. Don't forget, a lot of this tackle, and we mentioned bait fuel. Quantities are pretty limited. It's been flying off the shelf at the loft. So that's definitely gaining a lot of attention these days. But we'll get it all linked up in the link and try to make it easy for you to find some of this stuff. But man, it sounds like right now is a great time to get out and go fishing and have fun before it turns into a billion degrees. And then there'll be plenty of folks that'll still enjoy getting out and sweating, but now is a great time of the year. So guys, again, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.
Right there. Bye.